Welcome to the GSMC Fitness Podcast, the show that helps you sort through all of the trends, new and old, of the fitness world. We'll talk about yoga, running, Zumba, weightlifting, and everything in between. Whether you've got your fitness routine down to a science or you're just starting out and looking for direction, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the GSMC Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina. I hope that you are having a great week so far and are ready to get back into some fitness and health topics. We are full packed with some really interesting topics today. We're going to get into motivation because this is definitely something that a lot of people kind of is what's basically holding them back from starting their fitness journey or to keep going throughout their fitness journey, regardless of what goals you may have. So I thought we would talk a little bit about that and give you some ways that you can increase motivation just to make your life so much easier when you are starting your journey or, as I said, just getting into it or whatever it might be. Then we're going to talk a little bit about a really great exercise hack, almost not really a hack, but it's just a way of exercising. It's HIIT or HIT workout, and we're going to discuss that, what it is, how we do it, and why it's really great for you. And we're also going to get into something that is a question that's been in the fitness industry and kind of revolving around throughout the fitness world, which is, are abs really made in the kitchen or are they made in the gym? So we're going to get into that. We're going to answer that question once and for all, and hopefully that will help you out to kind of understand a little more about how to get abs and all that good stuff. And then lastly, we're going to get into something that's my favorite part, which is fitness myths. So we're going to get into fitness myths. We're going to be debunking those. It's probably going to be a lot of things that you've heard multiple times and maybe believed or maybe questioned. So we're going to take a look at those and kind of help you out to understand whether they're truly true or not. So let's jump right into motivation. This is a very important subject, whether you are just starting to get into fitness or take control of your health and diet, or whether you've been doing it for a long time, because motivation is something that you have to consistently work on, and it's something that you need to consistently have every day if you really want to truly achieve whatever goals you have. And it could just be, just to live healthier, eat healthier, or to get into exercise, more enhanced exercise, whatever it is. And I think people also confuse whether motivation is something that comes naturally or whether you have to work on it. And obviously it's great if motivation comes naturally. I think in the beginning of whenever you're starting something, it's usually easier to have motivation because it's brand new, it's exciting, you have these goals, and they seem so much easier when you haven't actually started working on them yet. So I think in the beginning, it's definitely easier for most to have motivation. However, where it starts to decline is over time and during the process of trying to achieve your goals and during the process of doing the routines that you've been doing. And when this motivation starts to drop, it's really hard to continue doing what you're doing. You kind of lose sight of why you're doing it. You lose sight of your goals and, just the motivation in general. And it makes it so much harder to get up every day and, do the things that you need to do to get to where you want to be. And so ways to increase motivation is something that is going to just kind of spark everything back up and spark the passion and the reason you're doing things. And motivation is basically just how much you want something and the expectations you have for yourself. So it's important to remember that, because I think the definition of motivation is also kind of confusing. Because even though everyone kind of knows what motivation is, it's hard to actually define. But I would just say that it is just how much you want something. And it just gives you your goals. It helps you to, get into habits and change your habits and, cope with any challenges, because motivation is what helps you, just overcome everything. So that's why I thought it was important to help to give some ideas on how to get motivated and stay motivated. So you have to just have your achievable goal. That would be the first thing. Make sure your goals are clearly set out in your head. Write them down. Whatever's the best for you, whatever you want to do. You just have to make sure you know what you want, because the point of motivation is to achieve your goals. So you have to know what your goals are, or else it's going to be confusing and you're not going to have the motivation, because you're not going to know exactly what you're motivated for. You have to also take into consideration that it's better to have smaller goals rather than to make a super big goal and one that's going to be a little harder to achieve or take a little longer. Because if you break your goal into smaller categories and make it into a few smaller goals until you achieve that bigger one, it's going to be easier for you, because once you reach each smaller goal, you're going to feel more motivated, because you're going to see that you're actually achieving things, rather than if it's taking you so long to achieve this one big goal, you're going to start to get unmotivated, because you're going to feel like, is it really worth it? Am I really getting anywhere? Which is why this is my favorite tip, is to make it a little easier on yourself, to split it up into smaller goals. Another good way to actually start the whole motivation process is to have family and friends around you that are helping you with your goals and helping you get motivated and feel motivated. Because when people around you support you, it's going to make you feel like you're not alone in it. It's going to be easier for you. I think that's why a lot of people, have workout partners, or when they start on their fitness journey, they have someone that's going to go along with them and just kind of hype them up and hype each other up, so that it's easier, because you guys are going to have kind of the similar goals and be going through the similar process and the same work that, both of you are going through. It's going to be easier if someone else is there doing the same things that you're doing. So another really important thing when you are trying to stay motivated is to have a positive way of thinking and a positive way of talking to yourself. Because the number one thing is that whatever you're doing, whether it's fitness or whatever goals you have, the number one motivator is going to be yourself, because you're always stuck with yourself, and it's the one person that you're never going to be away from, if that makes sense. So that's why it's really important to just improve the way that you think and the way that you speak to yourself and the thoughts that you have. Because if you're unmotivating from the inside, you're obviously going to have trouble reaching your goals and being motivated, because you're always going to be your number one fan, and you can always be your number one fan. So why have yourself be talking negatively to you when you could just be hyping yourself up and making it easier for you to do the things that you want to do? And on the specific subject of fitness goals, it's really important to make sure you are able to see the progress along the way, which is why if you are starting a fitness journey because you want to change your body, so if you want to lose weight, you want to gain muscle, whatever it is, it's important to be always trying to make sure that you are able to see how far you've come. And not just at the end, but throughout your journey, throughout everything that you're doing and working for. So a really good tip for this is to take pictures of your body so that you can compare later on to see your progress and track your progress. Because if you're seeing all the good things that are coming out of what you're doing, it's going to be so much easier for you to keep going, because you're going to know that it's not for nothing, and you're going to see small changes over time, and it's going to help you want to stick with it. And another important thing to keep in mind when we're working on staying motivated is that it really takes a long time to develop habits. So motivation might not come easy for you in the first, days, weeks, or even months of starting your goals and starting to work towards your goals. And I know it's different for most people, but they say it can take up to a few months to actually develop a habit where you're doing things every day and you're not having to purposely make yourself do them or, force yourself to do them, and actually think and be conscious of what you're doing. Because at one point, once you're used to things and once you've developed these habits, you're not even going to have to think deliberately about doing them or make yourself do them. It's just going to be a part of your day and something that's easy to you, like brushing your teeth. It's just going to come simple. So if you are someone that did have motivation in the beginning, but you're starting to feel that motivation kind of drop, it's important to kind of go back and review why you're doing what you're doing, reviewing your goals, making sure that they are tolerable for you, because if you are losing motivation, it could just be, like I mentioned before, that your goals are just a little bit too much or too fast, and you need to take a step back and kind of make it a little more easier on you, because in the long run, it's actually going to benefit you, because you may be thinking, oh, it's better to try to achieve my goals fast, because obviously we all want to get there sooner than later. But it's also important to realize that if you do this, it could be taking you a little longer in the long run, because you might be stopping and lacking motivation, and it's going to end up taking you longer than if you would have just made these smaller goals and given yourself a little more time. So that's important to keep in mind. And another thing that you should realize, and this one I think is a lot of people are like, no, I don't need that because I want to achieve my goals. I want to get there faster again. But if you are at a place where you have no motivation and you don't know where to start again, and you just feel like you can't start again, don't think that taking a break is going to be a negative thing, because a lot of times that is what you need. So don't think that it's quitting, because it's not, as long as you have your mindset that I'm going to take this break and I'm going to come back stronger and come back more motivated and ready to, smash my goals more than I was before. Because this can actually be a great reset for you, and just a way to kind of be kind to yourself, let yourself breathe for a little bit until you just go back and jump into your goals right away. And another concept that can really help you when you're trying to be motivated, or when you're kind of deciding what your actual goals are, is to remember that you should always be doing it for yourself. So if you're having these goals in mind that isn't necessarily for you, or it's because you want to impress other people or do something for someone else, it's going to be definitely more difficult for you to get there. So the main motivation behind your goals should always be because it's what you want. So it shouldn't be because of what someone else wants you to look like, or what you think the norm is, or what you see other people doing in the gym, or the way other people are eating. Because that's going to be hard for you to stick with, because deep down, that's not necessarily what you really want. So before you start, just deciding what your goals are or deciding what you want, it's important to make sure it's coming from a place of honesty within yourself, because regardless of what if it's for fitness or even everyday life, you can honestly use this for really everyday life as well. But if you're honest with yourself and what you want, it's going to be easier to actually get there. So I hope that makes sense, and I think that's the biggest thing, is just to make sure it's for you. So all these things are definitely important to stay motivated, and also to get started if you haven't yet. So keep these in mind in everyday life, because it's going to help you, fitness wise and other things as well. So stick around. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to get into a way of exercising, which is HIIT. I usually call it HIT, but it's basically a way to work out, and it is high intensity interval training. And we're going to get into what it means because it sounds more confusing than it is. And we're going to explain how to do it and also the benefits of it and why it's a great way to actually exercise. And then also remember that our big segment is at the end where we're going to be going over some fitness myths and we're going to be debunking those, which is my favorite part of the show. So stick around for that because that one's going to be really cool. Because I think a lot of times in the fitness industry, it's really hard to know what's true and what's not. And it can kind of confuse people. And honestly, some of these things can work against you and kind of slow you down or just make you to think the wrong things and make the wrong decisions when it comes to working out or eating healthy. So that's why I thought it was important to debunk these things. So stick around and we will be right back after a short break.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello, welcome back from the break. I'm glad you stuck around. I hope that the first segment was really helpful for you. We spoke about motivation and ways to get motivated and also ways to stay motivated, which obviously is very important regardless of what you're doing, fitness-wise or even in life in general. You always need motivation to keep going. And now we're going to get into a subject that's going to be helpful for workout routine and cardio specifically, which is HIIT, HIIT workout, you can call it. That's what I call it. But it basically stands for high intensity interval training. And I think a lot of people kind of think that HIIT sounds confusing because it does. But technically the name is just exactly what it is. So high intensity interval training. So it's basically where you're working out in specific intervals where you switch between two different types of exercise. So you're going to switch between very high intensity exercise and then a slower paced exercise where you're almost like when you're warming up. So just a slower and easier pace than the high intensity. And basically what this is doing is just helping you conserve energy so that you can work out longer and have a better workout in general. Because if you are just doing high intensity for your whole workout, you're going to be more likely to get tired faster and stop sooner. Whereas if you are doing HIIT, you're basically conserving that energy. And you're rationing your energy just so that your workout can be better and longer. So when you are in the high intensity intervals, you're basically burning glucose and carbs to get energy. And then when you go into your rest phase, which isn't a total rest, you're still going to be working out just at a slow pace. You are helping to conserve that energy so that you can start in the high intensity again. And there's no exact equation for it, but it's smarter to do less time of interval. So it's not going to be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of each interval. A good place to start is 20-40. So you would do 20 seconds high intensity and 40 seconds low intensity. And also, like I said, it's important to realize that there's no one exact way you have to do it or way you should do it because it's what feels best for you. But this is a good in-between and also a good starting point. So if you want to start with that, you can always build up to do longer high intensity and shorter rest periods. But just keep in mind that the longer you do your high intensity periods and the shorter you do your rest periods, it's going to be more likely that you're going to stop sooner. So you might not get to have a longer or better workout than you would if you are able to take longer rest periods and shorter high intensity periods. And the main reason that HIIT is a great way to do your cardio is because it's giving you a way of recovering before you get into that high intensity training. Because as I said before, the more high intensity you do, you're not going to have time to recover because you're going to consistently be working super hard to keep your heart rate up. Whereas when you're resting, it's going to give you a way to almost start over and start your high intensity again. So it's going to feel like you did when you first started. So high intensity interval training has a lot of good benefits, and the biggest one being just improving your cardiovascular health. It's really great for your heart and training yourself to be more active and have a better cardio health. And it's also great with managing your oxygen during exercise and increasing your insulin sensitivity, which is really important for, blood pressure and stuff like that. But overall, it's just really good for you. It's really a great way to do your cardio rather than just doing an hour of the same thing. It switches it up on your body. And then obviously on the high intensity parts, you're sparking your heart rate, which is obviously going to be great for weight loss or fat loss, because this is a time that you're going to be burning more calories than you are in a lower intensity workout. Because obviously you could choose to just do a lower intensity workout and try to do it for a longer period of time, but you are going to be burning more calories per minute the higher intensity your workout is. So you're basically just getting more bang for your buck because you're going to be burning calories faster than if you were to try to do a lower intensity workout for a longer period of time. And it's just great because you're basically able to take a little bit less time in the gym or at home if you're working out at home to finish your workout, because you are getting more out of HIIT in a faster period of time. So it's great if you have a busy schedule or you just want to get out of there faster and finish faster. That's really great part of HIIT as well. So obviously, I'm talking about running as an example, but there's definitely other ways to do HIIT. It's usually always cardio-based, but you can run like sprints. You could be on a bike, on a rower. You could even be on like elliptical machines. So it's really kind of works with regardless of what type of cardio you're doing. But it also works with body weight exercises. So you don't necessarily always have to do straight up cardio when you want to do HIIT, because you can use it with dumbbells, anything where you're using your muscles, just spiking your heart rate while you're doing these things, while you're doing the body weight exercises. But it's always important to try to choose exercises where able to spike your heart rate and you're able to do that high intensity workout, because if you're using like super heavy weights, you're not going to be able to do the high intensity and spike your heart rate as much, because it's going to be more difficult for you to get a range of movement and able to do that in general. And if you are wanting to use weights or add weight while you're doing HIIT, it's important to be smart so that you don't hurt yourself, because obviously the more weight you're going to be using, the harder it is to, keep in form and make sure that you are not getting injured in any way. Because if you are adding weight and your form is a little off, you are running the risk of, putting pressure on your joints and your muscles, and that can definitely lead to injury. So it's always important beforehand to plan your exercise and don't start off too strong or too heavy if you are using weights. And I spoke last time about ways to prevent injury, which was warming up. And that's always a really important part of HIIT as well. You still have to warm up. Even though you are doing low intensity first, it's still important to warm up. So definitely start with stretches, start with the low intensity. Don't jump into the high intensity. It's always important to start with the low. And also when planning your HIIT workout, it's important to not plan a super long workout because you are using a lot of energy when you are doing high intensity. And like I said earlier, you don't need to have a super long workout because you are getting a big workout out of a shorter period of time. So don't think you have to stay doing this workout for super long. A good estimate would be, no more than really 45 minutes if you are doing HIIT. So another thing to keep in mind if you are going to start doing HIIT workouts is to make sure you do have rest days, because it is taking a lot out of you because you are doing so much high intensity. You are using a lot of energy, which is why it's important to take rest days. So don't think you have to go every day, and obviously the long workouts. So it's important to keep it small and short, and don't overwork yourself. So a good thing to, try to do is to take at least one rest day per week, at least. Because I know a lot of people, once you get into it, and if you do have that motivation that we talked about earlier, you're going to want to go every day, and you're going to feel like, I don't want to miss a day. But it is going to be working in your favor, because at some point you're going to have burnout if you're not taking rest days, and you're going to end up taking more rest days than you planned if you do get to that point where your body really needs rest and you can't go anymore. So start taking rest days ahead of time, just so that you can actually, end up getting longer workouts and better workouts and more days per week than you would if you are neglecting yourself those recovery days. And then now I'm going to get into kind of a disclaimer about HIIT. It's not as scary as it sounds, but I do want to say that it's not going to be for everybody, which is why I said earlier that if you are wanting to try it, you should really start out very slow, because although you are taking a lot of rest during the workout, it is obviously very high intensity because of the points where you are doing high intensity. So it's important to just keep that in mind. It's not going to be for everybody, especially if you're someone that is just starting out into your fitness journey and just starting to work out. And also if you're someone that has other issues like joint issues or any previous injuries that still act up, it is very hard, but not crazy hard, but it's obviously going to be working your joints and muscles a lot. So that's why you should never jump into something, and it's always something that's good to just work up to. So I just want to say that, because as always, if you are pushing your body too hard, it's going to cause stress, which obviously stress has a bunch of negative effects on your body and your mind. So that's why you don't want to get too into it. So don't think it's the only way to go, because it can cause stress if you are doing such intense exercise. You also have to remember that it is going to take a lot of energy out of you, because you're basically just depleting all of the energy and sugar in your body. So it is going to take out, all of your fuel. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. If you're doing your HIIT workouts in the mornings, just keep in mind that it may tire you out for the rest of the day. So if you have a lot of things to do, if you work, whatever it is, just keep that in mind, that it is going to affect your energy hardcore. Because you are going to be using all of those energy stores that you have. So you may feel a little bit weaker and a little bit slower when you are doing the high intensity, but that is okay. But just know that is a possibility, because you are going to be burning all of your fuel. Another thing that you should keep in mind that could be a reason why it might not be for you is because of sleep. I'm someone that has always had issues with sleep, and exercise in general can really help with sleep. When you are doing a moderate exercise every day, it can help your body actually get into that mode of sleep later on, because you are working out during the day, so you're going to be more likely to feel relaxed and a little more tired at night. Or if you work out at night after your workout, you're obviously going to feel a little more likely to sleep than if you didn't do any activity during the day. However, with HIIT, if it is too much for your body, it can disrupt sleep, because when you are doing such high intensity workout, your body is going to be running on more adrenaline, because when you are doing high intensity training, you are going to be more pumped sometimes, I guess, is how you would say it. So there's kind of two types of people in HIIT. It can really run you dry and take your energy, but it can also really wake you up. But this is more a concern if you do prefer your workouts at night. So if you're working out like close to before you're going to sleep, so within a few hours of the time that you are going to sleep, it is important to keep that in mind, that it can kind of pump you up and make you a little more likely to have trouble getting to sleep because of that adrenaline and because of the hormones that you're releasing and serotonin. It's going to be a little mentally harder to fall asleep. And then last concern, I think I mentioned earlier maybe, what is just overall like joint and muscle health, because it can really like pay a whole lot of work on your joints. So make sure to keep that in mind. And obviously, if you watched my last podcast, we talked about injury prevention. And one of those was actually joint supplements. So it's important, especially with HIIT, to keep that in mind and to just be ready for that harshness on your body. So obviously that's why I say if you are wanting to start and you're not used to physical exercise or high intensity exercise, it's important to keep all these things in mind and to start very, very slow so that you can get your body ready for it. So with that being said, it's always important to try everything. That's how I always see it, as long as you're doing it correctly. So keep all these things in mind, and I do think it is worth it to try it because it could be great for you, or it could be something that you don't like and is not good for you and you don't have to do it, but it's always worth it to try. So we're going to take another short break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into the subject of abs, and more specifically, we're going to be answering a question that a lot of people have and a lot of people are not too sure about, which is, are abs made in the kitchen or are they made in the gym? And what this just means is, are abs made from eating healthy or are they made from doing actual ab circuits and ab workouts? So we're going to answer that and we're going to get right into it. So stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey guys, welcome back. To recap what we spoke about earlier, we discussed HIIT, high intensity interval training, and what it does and why it's a good option, or maybe some reasons why it's not right for you. And now we're going to get into the concept of abs and the age-old question of whether they're made in the gym or in the kitchen. And this is something that a lot of people still, I think, confused, because a lot of fitness people in the fitness industry kind of shove ab workouts at you and ways to work your abs, which is obviously great to train your muscles. But to answer the question, abs are made in the kitchen and not the gym. So to clear it up a little bit, obviously, when you are working your abs in the gym or at home, whatever you're doing, any ab workouts, you're going to be building your ab muscles and defining your ab muscles. However, I think the phrase that abs are made in the kitchen pertains to the fact that you're not going to see the abs unless you are eating healthy, because basically your abdominal muscles are below any layer of fat that you have. So in order to see your abs and show the abs and have them to look more defined is to lessen the body fat percentage so that you are actually revealing the abs that you have. Because technically everybody has abdominal muscles. Everybody has any type of muscles. It's just dependent on, how much body fat you have to actually see the muscles, to show how defined the muscles are. And you're not going to actually see abs unless you are at a very low body fat percentage. So usually for men, you start to see abdominal muscles once you're under 15% body fat. And obviously the lower body fat you get, the more pronounced your abs are going to be. And usually for women, it starts at around 20% and under of body fat. So to put it into a different perspective, you could think of it this way. So you could do so much ab training, right? In your workout, do ab circuits, ab exercises, and then you could go home and have a really unhealthy diet and, eat all the calories that you burned back. This would mean that you're not getting any more lean and you're not burning any more calories or fat than you were initially. So you're not in that deficit that I actually spoke about in my last podcast, which is also really important for this subject. So basically, when we're talking about abs and showing abs, calorie deficit is what is going to be super important as well, because the only way to actually burn fat and to become more lean is to be in a calorie deficit. So if you are trying to get abs or reveal your abs, I like to say reveal more than get, because as I said before, everyone has abs. It's just an aspect of letting them to be seen, which is to lower that body fat percentage. And so the main thing that you should be focusing on is eating healthier before, which is where the whole abs are made in the kitchen come from. So it's important to be monitoring your calories and making sure that they're under your maintenance calories, which I also spoke about in the last podcast. So if you are interested in that, make sure to check that out, because I go into more detail of calorie deficit. But it's really good to just be wary and to make sure that you are eating under that maintenance level. So eating things like fruit, yogurt, oatmeal, things that are lower calories so that you can stay within that calorie deficit is going to help you with revealing your abs. And it's also important to remember that it's not going to happen overnight. So it is going to take time, especially because as you're losing weight, you're not just losing fat. So you might be seeing the number on the scale go down, but that's not going to be exactly how much fat is lost, because you're going to be losing other things like your actual muscle mass, water weight, things of that nature is also going to be lowering as well. So fat actually takes a little longer than weight to lessen, because weight and fat are definitely two different things. However, when you are losing weight, you're obviously going to be losing fat along with it. So with that being said, obviously doing ab exercises is not a bad thing. So I'm in no way saying that it's not helpful, because it is going to help you build ab muscles and it's going to help you define them, which is going to help, because once you are losing that body fat and your abs are going to be revealed, they're going to be more defined. Whereas if you don't work them, you're not going to have that defined ab look. So obviously you are going to have abs and they are going to be revealed, but obviously doing ab workouts is just going to enhance them. But obviously the main thing to attaining abs is to always do things in combination. So obviously cardio is important, because cardio is going to help you burn those calories, along with low calorie eating is what's going to make you lose that body fat and lessen that layer of fat over your abdominal muscles. And then doing ab workouts are going to help you define them so that when they are shown, they're going to look better, more enhanced, more toned. So it's always important to do both of these things in combination. However, another thing to keep in mind is to actually build ab muscles, you're going to have to be eating an adequate amount of protein, and it's better to eat a little bit more calories than your maintenance so that you can actually build that muscle. So a smart way to go about having abs or revealing abs is to start out by burning that fat, being able to lessen the layer of fat so that you can actually see your abs and you can get to the point where you want in that way. And then you'll have a better idea of if you want to build more muscle, if you want to build more abdominal muscles, then you can go in and start to do those ab exercises, ab circuits, whatever it might be, so that you're able to eat a little more so that you can gain that muscle, because it's going to be a little difficult to do that at the same time, to burn fat and build muscle at the same time is something that's been researched many times. Some people say it's impossible to do. Some people say it is possible as long as you're eating enough protein, but there's never really one answer as to which one of those concepts is correct. So that's why I always say it's better to do one or the other. And also, if you do it this way and you lose the fat first, you can see where you're at. And if you like the way you look and there's no need to build muscle, then you don't need to. And you'll just be saving yourself some time, I guess. And when you are trying to lose the fat to reveal your abs, it's important to remember that, as I just mentioned, protein needs to be an adequate amount because, as I mentioned, when you do lose weight, you're going to be most likely losing some sort of muscle mass along with it. So if you get an adequate amount of protein, you're less likely to lose more muscle mass and you're going to lose more fat in replacement. So when you're losing weight, make sure you are having as much protein as possible. Most people need more protein than they think. It's usually around 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. So keep that in mind. It's usually more than you're going to think. And you always want to preserve that muscle mass when you're losing fat, because obviously you're not wanting to lose weight and then have that non-defined look. You're going to want to preserve your muscle so that when you do lose the fat and you become lean, you're going to look toned rather than just like that flabby but skinny look, if that makes sense. And back to the concept of doing both of these things at the same time. So watching your diet while exercise. So trying to get lean while trying to build those abs is important to do together, because there have been many studies on whether exercise and diet works better together rather than just focusing on diet or just focusing on exercise. And it has been proven that doing both together can enhance your progress greatly rather than just focusing on one. So when you do exercise in combination with having a healthy diet, it's going to show more significant changes in your body composition. That's important to keep in mind as well. And as for what exercises are great for your abdominal muscles, one that has been really proven to help with your abs is resistance training. It's usually more effective than endurance training. And so, or obviously you can do it in combination with endurance training, so like cardio and stuff like that. But resistance training is always a good thing to add as well, because it has definitely been proven to be one of the more elite ways of exercise to reduce body mass and fat mass in general. So it's always a good thing to add resistance training along with cardio training and whatever else you might want to do. If you're doing ab workouts and stuff like that, it's always good to do multiple different things rather than just focusing on one way of working out. And like I said, the last segment, which is right after this one, we're talking about fitness and health myths, but I'm going to add one in right here because it's definitely on topic, which is spot reduction. So a lot of people, well, if you don't know what spot reduction is, it's the concept that you can reduce fat in a certain area of your body. And this is false. And hopefully, I think now it's kind of getting a little more of a world-renowned fact that that myth has been debunked, but I'm sure that it's still kind of confusion for a lot of people and they think that it is possible. But when you're losing fat, it's impossible to just lose fat in one area. So a lot of people, when they think abs, they think, okay, crunches are going to reduce fat on my abdominal muscle. So on my stomach, it's going to reduce fat on my stomach. But this is not true at all, because when you are doing crunches, you're not really burning a significant amount of calories. You're more just working those muscles. And even the calories that you are burning while doing crunches is going to burn throughout your whole body, because the fat is going to come off you how fat comes off you. So, and it's different for everyone, but fat is usually something that comes off dispersed throughout your whole body. So you're going to see fat come off in every area, but slower, and not just off of your stomach. And usually women carry fat like on the bottom half. Men usually carry fat more on the top half and stomach area. But so that would mean, you could be losing fat faster on your bottom half, or you could be losing fat faster on your stomach, or whatever your body loses fat first. That's your body, and it's different for everyone. So keep that in mind as well. But spot reduction is not possible. So you can't do push-ups to lose fat on your arms or to burn calories. You can't do leg workouts to burn fat on your legs. It's just not possible. So that's something to always keep in mind as well. So don't think crunches aren't working, because that's not what they're meant to do. So don't think if you're doing crunches but you're not losing fat on your stomach that it's not working, because it is working, just for a different purpose. So it is going to be building those ab muscles and toning them. It's just not going to be losing the fat from that area, which is why it's important to obviously to know the concept of eating healthy is what's going to get you those abs. More specifically, not just eating healthy, but eating in that calorie deficit. And lastly, this is something to keep in mind when you are striving for abs, is that, like I mentioned in the beginning, the way to get abs is to have a very low body fat percentage. And the ones that I mentioned for men and women is very low. And you have to keep in mind that the lower body percentage you have can get to a really unhealthy level. And those levels that are required to show your abs are a lot of times a point where you're not going to feel very good. You might feel tired. It's going to give you a lot of bad side effects when you don't have enough fat in your body. It's going to be hard for your body to function normally. So when you are trying to attain this, you have to keep in mind that, is this really what you want? So to have abs is something that you're going to have to really strive for all the time, because you're going to have to maintain that body fat percentage as well, because you're not just going to keep the abs by magic. It's not like once you have them, they're going to stay. So you're always going to have to be within this certain body fat percentage. And for some people, like a lot of athletes, obviously it's easier for them. So it's not something that is going to be easy, if that makes sense. So just know that, because sometimes, people get to that level and it's like, oh, that's what I always wanted, to reveal my abs. And it's actually, not as fun as it seems once you get there. I just want to say that last. But yeah, so we're going to take one more little break, and we're going to get to the best part of the episode, which is what we've been waiting for and what I just mentioned, which is fitness myths. And a lot of these you probably have heard, and hopefully I'm going to help you out, because I'm going to tell you whether they are true or not. And most of these are used a lot. I still hear these claims made a lot of times, especially if they're used to like sell products and stuff like that. So I'm just going to debunk those for you, because a lot of these can really work in your, well, not in your advantage. They could really mess up your fitness routine and your goals, because if you're doing these things based on a myth, obviously they're not true and they're not going to work in your advantage. So it's important to debunk a lot of the common ones. So that's why I thought that this would be the perfect thing to say for last, because it's going to be very interesting, because I might blow your mind with some of these. So yeah, we're just going to take a little break, and then we're going to come right back and we're going to get into debunking fitness myths. So hold tight, and we will be back right after the break.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our next and final segment. But before we get into it, I just want to recap everything that we spoke about today. So we spoke about motivation and ways to keep motivated and to stay motivated. And this is very important in fitness and in health and in anything else that is in your life. Then we got into HIIT, high intensity interval training, which is a way of exercising that is very helpful and definitely something that you should try. So hopefully after today's episode, you are thinking of maybe trying to get into it and seeing if it's right for you. And then last segment, we spoke about abs and how abs are made in the kitchen and not in the gym, and explained how this is, what this means, and ways to kind of help you with achieving that goal of showing your abs and revealing your abs. And now for our final segment, which is my favorite part of today's episode, is debunking fitness myths. And this one is really important because I think the worst thing about the fitness industry is that there's so many things thrown at you and you don't know what's true and what's not. And the worst time that this happens is when people are trying to make money off of fitness and health and make money off of people who are wanting to invest in their fitness and health. And a lot of times there will be certain things sold that have claims that are going to help you lose weight, or claims that they're going to help you build muscle when that may not be true. For example, like those weight loss drinks or weight loss lollipops or appetite suppressants. A lot of times there's claims made that are totally false against those, and it's just in the hopes of making a profit off of someone's fitness goals or weight loss goals. And it's definitely an unfortunate thing. So that's why I thought that I should, get into a lot of those claims. And a lot of them sometimes are just based on people being uneducated on the subject, and they may think something is true when it's not. And obviously when you're hearing all these things through the fitness world, you're not sure which one to believe. So that's why we're going to get into that. So to step right in, the first myth is exercising on an empty stomach first thing in the morning can burn fat faster or more efficiently. And this theory is not always true, because the theory is the fact that when there's nothing in your stomach, your body is going to be forced to burn fat for fuel rather than any carbs or calories that are in your system. But in reality, your body has the possibility of burning muscle for fuel. So your body's not always going to just look for fat for fuel. So it's not that clear cut. So that part of the claim is not necessarily correct. So your body is going to look for muscle first to give you energy. And this can cause a lot of bad things like dehydration, cause you to be tired, lightheaded, a lot of things. And another really, really negative thing that can actually happen which is totally opposite of what we want, is to slow down your metabolism. It can, when your body is working to find, things other than food to burn for fuel, your metabolism is going to slow down. And that's definitely not something you want. Another myth is that detox can help you lose weight. And this is one of the big ones that I was kind of referring to earlier, that is a lot of times used to market certain products and make you think that certain products like detox shakes or detox drinks are going to help you lose weight. That's a very common one. And the thing with this is that obviously when you are doing a detox, you're probably going to be taking in less calories, which means it is going to lead to weight loss. But a lot of this is not due to fat loss, and any fat loss that you are losing is going to slow down your metabolism because you're not going to be getting enough calories, and it's going to be harder to maintain that weight loss later on. So it's going to work against you. And another thing, just like what we talked about earlier, is this also can cause you to lose muscle. But the biggest thing is that although you are going to lose initial amount of weight, it's going to be really hard to keep that because you're not going to be able to just stay on a detox for the rest of your life and get such a small amount of calories for the rest of your life. So that's why this theory is definitely something that is not a good thing and not necessarily true. Another myth is that when you exercise, it can counteract when you sit a lot throughout the day or don't do a lot of activity throughout the day, like you have a desk job or you just spend time in your bed all day. And this is not true, because the amount of exercise you would need to counteract the fact that you are not active at all during the day is way more than your body could ever do, and way more than you could ever do. And so when you're sedentary for like more than 13 hours throughout the day, you're basically risking your health. And even if you think like, okay, I'm going to exercise for an hour, it's not going to counteract this, which is why that myth is not correct. Next myth is that rest days are not necessary. And although a lot of people think this, I think is just more because they have so much motivation and they don't want to take rest days, and they're more of like an all or nothing individual, which I get. But in reality, this will actually work against you, because you need recovery days for your muscles to rest, and mentally as well. It's always good to rest. And if you don't take rest days, you're putting yourself at risk of like injuries, joint pain, muscle pain, stuff like this. You can also pose the risk mentally, because you can have like mental fog and stuff like this if you're not taking rest days. Okay, the next fitness myth is no pain, no gain. And this one has been proven false as well, because obviously when you work out or you lift weights, you're going to have soreness in your muscles, but I think a lot of people confuse that with severe pain. And if you are feeling significant pain where it feels like it's constricting you from finishing your workout or getting through a workout, it's definitely not smart to keep going, because you are definitely at risk of injury. And you have to remember that your body is working for you. So a lot of times if you are feeling severe pain, it's your body telling you to stop, and it's your body warning you before you do injure yourself. So don't think that all pain is good pain, because a lot of times it's smart to take a step back and prevent yourself from getting injured, because if you do get injured, it's going to be actually doing opposite of what you want to do, because, you know, obviously you're wanting to keep working out and get to where you want to be faster. But if you do get injured, it's just going to basically stop your progress for a while and make it harder and take longer for you to get back to actually achieving your goals. Next myth, which is kind of like our first one, I believe it was our first one, which was working out on an empty stomach. This one is morning workouts are best for your metabolism. So a lot of people believe that if you work out directly in the morning, it can kick your metabolism to work more and more efficiently throughout the day. And this is not true, because overall, regardless of when you work out, it's going to be the same. And any time that you work out, any time of the day that you work out is going to be good for you. So don't think that you have to work out at a certain time to have the most efficient workout or have the best positive reaction on your metabolism, because it doesn't necessarily matter. So if you aren't a morning person, don't force yourself to wake up early to work out. And if you don't like night workouts, don't force yourself to stay up to work out at night, because it's going to be the same thing either way. Next is the myth that running on a treadmill is gentler on your knees than running outside. And although this is probably a very common misconception, it's actually true that you are more prone to injury on a treadmill. And this is because on a treadmill, you are moving differently than you are on the ground, because the treadmill surface is actually really problematic for your knees and your back. And also, people who use treadmills a lot, they're having or developing a longer stride than they are if you're going to just run outside. And when you change your stride and lengthen your stride, you're actually going to be stretching your tendons and your ligaments, likely to have an injury or more at risk to have an injury. So when you are working out or running on treadmills, it's also important to have the right shoes, because that's a big thing as well, regardless of if you're outdoor or indoor. But overall, it is not any gentler on your knees to run on the treadmill. If anything, it's opposite. Next is the myth that if you're not using your heart rate at max level, then you need to push yourself harder. And this isn't true because there's many different ways to work out. And I think a really confusing topic is heart rate zones and deciding what heart rate zone is best for your workout session. When in reality, say you were to work out at a less intensity level, but you're able to go longer, you're still going to be getting a really great workout, same as if you were to be doing a high intensity workout for a shorter amount of time. Another myth is that drinking a lot of water, like an excessive amount of water before and during exercise can prevent dehydration. However, a lot of people take this too extreme and chug a bunch of water before and during their workout, when in reality, this can actually be too much for your body. And when you do drink too much water at one time, you're actually going to be depleting the sodium in your body. And that's going to start giving you actual symptoms that are similar to dehydration, and you have the possibility of getting disoriented, tired, headaches, and stuff like that, because sodium in your body is important for working out, which is why a lot of hydration drinks have sodium within them. Next is the myth that eating fat will make you fat. And this one is probably the most confusing, and just considering the term fat, I always hated that the term has two totally different meanings. So fat in terms of in foods is not a negative or bad thing, unless you're obviously having way too much of one. And it's also important to remember that there's different types of fat. So there's unsaturated fats, saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats. And a lot of fats are good. It's not good to consume too much unsaturated fat, but fat actually can boost your metabolism. And actually it has been proven that some people that eat more of the good fats can actually have a lower BMI and a lower body weight. So don't think body fat has anything to do with the fat that's found in the foods that you eat. So eating fat is not going to make you fat. Eating more calories than you burn is going to make you fat. And the next myth is that you can sweat out toxins, or that the more sweat that you actually sweat is going to be burning more calories. And this is not true at all, because although sweat does contain like very, very small amounts of toxins, you're not going to be able to actually eliminate a significant amount at all in that way, which is why, your body does that job for you within your kidneys and your liver and stuff like that. That's why your body functions naturally, and your body's going to push out toxins naturally that way. And then the myth that your body, the more that you sweat, it shows that you're burning more calories is not true, because the way your body actually burns calories is through oxygen. So you literally breathe out calories. So don't think because you're sweating more, you're going to be burning more. And don't think that if you make yourself sweat, or don't purposely try to make yourself sweat more, because it's not going to actually be burning any more calories. And another myth is that you have to exercise for a certain amount of time to actually be beneficial, and that amount of time is usually said to be 1 hour. So a lot of people say if you're not working out for at least 1 hour, it's not going to benefit you, which is totally false. You could break up your workout to, 10 minutes 5 times throughout the day, and you're still going to get the same greatness out of your workout. It's not going to matter how long your workout is. So don't think that you have to do a certain amount of time, especially if you're not feeling it, if you're tired and you really would have to push yourself to keep going. Don't feel like you need to do that, and don't feel like it's going to be a waste of a workout if you don't make it to that hour point or that 45-minute point. The next thing is the myth of waist trainers or a fat burning belt. It's not going to help you get abs. That's the myth. And like we talked about earlier when we talked about abs, sweating more on your ab region is not going to eliminate the fat there. You are still going to have to eat less calories than you take in to actually burn that fat. And lastly is the myth that physical fitness has nothing to do with your mental fitness and mental health. This is obviously one that I hope most people don't believe, because it's actually very beneficial. Your fitness health is very beneficial to your mental health, because you are releasing endorphins and upping your serotonin when you are exercising, which is always great for your mental health and your mood. So having a good physical fitness and working out can really enhance your mood and how you feel, which is obviously the most important thing. So hopefully all of these are educational for you. I hope that next time you see, any type of claim in the fitness industry, it's always good to do your own research and, just know that you can't always take everything you hear as fact, because it can definitely work against you, and we never want that. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope that the other segments were informative to you as well, and I'm excited to see you next time. And as always, thank you for listening to GSMC Fitness Podcast.
You've been listening to the GSMC Fitness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, and any app where you listen to podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, we cover it all. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and listen to these podcasts on YouTube. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.